mention Anna for dragging me here from Australia. She's a very hard person to say no to. Does anyone else have that experience? So, even if it took me a year to answer your email, you still got what you said. Now, I may speak in Strine, which is the original English mother tongue. But if you have trouble, ask Anna and she'll translate. So I sort of stole this slide from a wonderful talk I saw last week. And it's about scales of diversification. So my work is thinking about effects of climate change on biological diversity at different time scales, thinking about how that knowledge can help us manage conservation in respect to future climate change. I won't talk about the conservation angle while I'm here, but I'm going to give you a very lizard-centric view on this sort of axis of processes. And these are common themes that emerge consistently. Where do things come from? So things colonize an island or a continent from somewhere at some point in history. They radiate or diversify to greater or lesser extents. They diverge in trait and ecology, and then overlaid on that is sort of range fluctuation of different temporal scales and assembly and reassembly of communities as things fluctuate idiosyncratically. So there's no great insight in there. The puzzle to me, and this will become, I hope, clear as we go along, is what's the time and spatial scale of trait and ecological divergence? And you might think that it's actually associated with the speciation events, or even deeper in phylogeny, so-called conservatism, or it may be operating down here right at the tips, very small spatial scales, very recent temporal scales, so-called eco-evolutionary feedback. And to me, that's one of the puzzles. I don't have the answer to it, and there probably won't be a single answer. It depends on the trait, depends on the ecology of the system and the rate of evolution of the system. But this should really be shown as sort of spanning this whole timescale from original radiation out to here. And it's really only something I've just started thinking about. So, first thing I need to do is acknowledge that people actually do the work. We have pretty wild herpetology meetings in Australia. People get dressed up, do weird stuff. The work I'm going to talk about is a massive effort by a very large group of people, supported by the Australian Research Council. I just went back and tried to go through my slides and properly acknowledge who's done what as we go through this. So, I'm kind of a lizard guy, and Australia's a great place to be a lizard guy. It's up towards 1,000 species now. We're still discovering new species, and we'll see it. As you see, I think we still have a long way to go to even just do the discovery phase of what the diversity is, but it's incredibly rich, particularly in the arid zone. Dan Robowski's done some really excellent work on the reptile macroevolution there. And people have sort of done a good job assembling the species range data, trying to map out the macroecological variables of richness, turnover, variation of range size. Oh, good God. How do I get out of that? What did I do there?
I think Zoom disconnected.
Oh. That was scary. Big fat lizard.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is complicated. All right, now we're back with an amazing lizard fauna. Okay, so where did all this stuff come from? And one of the surprises that's come out of recent sort of large-scale phylogenies is it nearly all came from Asia. So Australia, of course, was originally a chunk of Gondwana, and then about 50 million years or so, 50 to 45 million years ago, it began drifting away. It moved north over 10, 15 million years and collided with Asia. And in the middle is a whole bunch of very complex tectonics as these two plates collided, but it's still not well understood. But it turns out, when we do one of these sort of big phylogenies for all the Australian primates, turns out about 85% of that total diversity is derived from Asia, not Gondwana. And this is a really nice piece of work done recently by Paul Oliver and their refugial. Each of these little red clades here is the Australian radiation across skinks and geckos down the bottom. And except for this group here, the pygopodoid geckos, the leafless lizards, and weak-tailed geckos and so forth, the rest of this stuff has clearly come in from Asia, based on who its closest relative is and the timing of that. So the question is, what happened when this Asian fauna hit the Gondwana fauna? Well, their hypothesis at the moment, based on the crown ages of what's left of the Gondwana fauna, these geckos, is that there was a large-scale reduction in the Gondwana fauna around the Eocene-Oligocene boundary, which is sort of a big chill. That's when the Antarctic ice caps really started forming in a big way. The global temperatures plummeted. And it seemed like there could have been quite a dramatic extinction event of the reservoir, essentially providing ecological space for the invading things to radiate. And it's trying to connect again. So, and the timing of the immigration events, based on the different clades, is very strongly clustered around this Oligocene period as they're coming in. So, some of that is still a little bit uncertain based on timing, but the sort of big picture is of, actually there wasn't much there or much surviving of the Gondwana fauna once the Asian taxa began coming in. Now, can I still form? Yes. Another piece of the puzzle, and again this is more of Paul Oliver's work with a whole bunch of collaborators, is what was going on in these islands. So Australia was moving north. This is an Oligocene representation. Australia's moving north, hitting Asia, sea level is a bit lower at this time. And there's been geologists, particularly Brian Hall and others, have been trying to reconstruct what happened in between these two big land masses as they approach each other. And there was a whole bunch of accretion arcs. And they've had a really dynamic spatial history. The geologists don't know whether they're above water or below water, they can't tell. But the astonishing thing to me is when they've been sampling some of the lizards in what's present now in these arc systems, particularly New Ireland, Britain, Solomon Islands, and so forth, is they're finding really old things sitting out there endemic to each of these island areas. So it appears that there was a fauna there going back at least 30, 40 million years, which has persisted through the present on these little remnant island arcs. And perhaps they were part of the foundation of the Australian being known as a single agent to Australia. And the same ideas we put forward for Aussie birds as well. So that's all I'll say about the big picture. It's still a story we're piecing together, but it's looking really interesting. The idea for this I stole straight from Junie's slide yesterday. Really nice way to show it. And it's very simple. In Australia, as in he was showing the variables. So Australia has these sort of core-scale biomes, monsoonal tropics, and I'll talk a lot of that later, from Kimberley, top end, and York, from the big arid zone, which is very young, that's the youngest biome. Most of it's Pleistocene in age, the big sandy deserts, maybe only a million years old. And then of indeterminate age, really, are the temperate forests around the bottom. And some of the rainforests not shown here, which is the archipelago down here. These seem to be quite old, perhaps going back to the Gondwana age, which is sort of cool, temperate sort of environment. So we really have no idea how old this one's are. They're much older than the monsoonal tropics, which is essentially Pliocene in age, and the arid side, which is Pleistocene in age. So we've got both fauna arriving, diversifying, and then a lot of biome change, biome evolution going on. On top of that, driven by these sort of global climatic events. So there's been a lot of interest in the arid zone. What happened? First of all, what are the taxa that were there before the formation of the arid zone? Which ones were able to colonise, and then did they radiate extensively or not? And Dan Lebowski's done some very nice work on that here in reptiles, which again is super diverse in the arid zone. And most of that diversity is really around two genera, two groups of skinks, the rooster and Ctenotus. And they made an interesting observation. They both accelerated in their rate of evolution, speciation, and they are hugely diverse groups relative to their mesic or wet forest relatives, which are deeper in here. So they've accelerated in their speciation rate. They've done so in very different relations to morphology or ecology. The rooster also was speciating as fast as the wet forest, evolving in traits as fast as the wet forest did. But the Ctenotus slowed down. If you've seen one, you've seen them all, sort of ecological. Yet they coexist in these really rich assemblages, up to 10 species in the same place. And we don't have a clue how they sort life out. And Dan has worked on that really hard. So there's a lot of puzzles out there. So we're trying to link the rate of trait evolution, the rate of speciation, are they connected, are they disconnected? There's a lot to learn there. So a lot of the work I've been doing is really got macroevolutionary. It's right out of the tips. What actually are the species? Are they properly construed relative to the sort of genomic data we can get out? And to me, that's really important. If you want to study speciation, you kind of need to know what the species are. If you do macroecology, mostly you start with macroevolution, you mostly start with lists of species or taxonomous given. Do we have it right? And the message from this is that probably not. So, I've spent a lot of time, and my colleagues spent a lot of time in the last few years trawling around the monocidal tropics. It's all a thinly veiled excuse to get in my troop carrier, throw swags on top, and drive thousands of kilometres camping, catching lizards. It's like being a kid all over again. And this is one of the groups we work on, the rainbow skinks. We've built up now very large collections. This is mostly a sort of tropical and temperate forest group. Only a couple of species come into the arid zone in comparison to the other group. Now, it's kind of complicated. I'll be honest. But it's an example of the types of things we're seeing. This is Sally Potter's work published just recently. So this is for 4 species, 1, 2, 3, 4 species, each with its map. And it's sort of a complicated phylogeny in which the species are seen to each represent multiple lineages with very little gene flow between them. So there's particularly out on the islands. We found particularly out on these islands here, very deep old lineages that essentially have apparently no recent gene flow to the mainland, and so forth. She's then applied in collaboration with one of my students, Xander, some fancy demographic models to put numbers on all this. The basic point here is that what we think of as one species morphologically has a bunch of different elements within it. Very divergent sets of populations at least, if not species. So we've actually been working with this genus for a long time. I won't go into full detail, but Sonal Singol, who's a PhD student with me in Berkeley, did very extensive hybrid zones, comparative hybrid zones study, very thorough spatial sampling. She looked at transcriptome scale of these hybrid zones between morphologically cryptic lineages within species. We're interested, are these things actually genomically isolated or not, even though they form some hybrids? Are they effectively good species? And we found that for the more deeply divergent ones, in fact, they were, and there was a linear relationship between divergence time and inversion and the degree of suppression of exchange of genes across these hybrid zones. Well, the older the split, the stronger the reproductive or genomic isolation. And that scale is shown here on the phylogeny of all these electropic steps. So above this bar, you have much higher divergence than in a very close related system, where we've done the hybrid zone work, there's no genomic exchange. Below the bar, there might be. So we have all these red bars here, there's don't show red tips. The red bars are all lineages that look to be more divergent than we would expect good species to be. But they're all morphologically identical to each other within a species. We've done the morphology. We can't talk about that. So these, if you like, are sort of candidate cryptic species. And we're now going into these things looking with much more dense sampling of SNPs. And when we've done that, it confirms that even when they overlap spatially, there is no genetic exchange for the deep ones. The shallow ones, that's not true. We've actually done this now across entire radiation. This is one of those red bars colonizing Australia. This one has about 125 species. We've got about 160 total things in there, including the candidate cryptic species. And we've probably vastly underestimated the species diversity in this group. And that's going to have impacts on macroecology, macroevolution, conservation, and so on. I'll show you another example. This is my favourite thing, the little geckos called the hire. I've actually gone back after 30 years to clean up on my PhD. I had Alzheimer's, well, multi-locus data. Has anyone here actually heard of Alzheimer's? Oh, good. Yeah, kind of old school. But it was multi-locus data. Anyway. So this group is pretty diverse across the monsoonal tropics, nowhere near as much as the skinks. It came in about 18 odd million years ago from Asia. Another colonizing group. And when you start looking at individual species of these, this is just one named thing, the hierarchical, this little spotty job. We find 9 different genomic lineages within it. And this is based on, most of these data I'm showing you on 1,000 to 2,000 exons. So it's pretty large scale genomic data. We screen a whole bunch of stuff with mitochondrial DNA, we sequence representatives of thousands of exons. We produce these incomprehensible maps, I'll say a bit about that later. And then we try to figure out what are the species in them and what are just lineages or genetic lineages. So in this case, we've got 9 different things called the hierarchical. The sucker over in the middle is a bunch of other really phenotypically divergent species. So it's probably not one thing. So I'm going to unpack this a bit to explain to you, because I found myself doing taxonomy all this stuff. I had questions about patterning diversity and processes, then I discovered, oh hell, I have to go do the taxonomy first. Anyone working on invertebrates? Obviously, none of us have had this experience. So we take that really complicated thing I just showed you and break it down into pieces. We have 4 things that are phylogenetically very divergent, 4 sets of populations. These colours here. They overlap either with each other or with elements of this other group down here, also called the hierarchical, with no genetic exchange. So they're clearly separate species genomically, but morphologically they're very hard to tell apart. They separate a bit on body size, so there's some trait divergence there, but not in shape at all. So we've actually gone ahead and named those based on a variety of evidence. But then if we go into this, we'll go back to the complex diagram in a second. Now we want to figure out this group. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things there with these other species stuck in the middle. Can we split them up? Here, they don't overlap each other spatially at all. They replace each other parapatrically across the landscape. They are completely distinguished in morphology or ecology and that same habitat use. They're just little brown spotty geckos that replace each other sequentially across the landscape. And Jessica Becker has been doing some SNP screening for a landscape genetics project, but finding some evidence of integration between these at their boundaries. So those we would keep as one species, but genetic units within one species. So that's sort of the flavour we're trying to do. Phylogenomics, SNP screening, and then morphology, and then do the taxonomic revisions as we go to sort of unpack this diversity. Well, that's sort of the tip of the iceberg. This is one genus that's come in 200 million years ago. There's another big group up here, I haven't talked about it down here. So we started with 18 species. With the very basic genetics, the colleagues described another 5 or so. We've got 60 lineages here that we can diagnose genetically within these groups. Most of them are morphologically cryptic. We've sort of probably near double the total species diversity once we're done. So that has a lot of implications for how we map diversity, for how we understand diversification process. And the sort of emerging theme here is that there's a lot of cryptic speciation going on. And that's, again, nothing new. Dobbs Anstey talked about sibling species. It's an idea that's been in the evolutionary literature for a long time. But until recently, we haven't had the sort of a microscope, this sort of new genomic technology, to really be able to find these things with a very high level of confidence. And there's a lot of it out there. So by virtue of cryptic speciation, we mean there is no trait divergence, at least ecologically relevant trait divergence we can find associated with these speciation events. That's not to say there's nothing going on. In another group of skinks, most one, a PhD student with me, looked at these cryptoblurtrous skinks, which are referred to as the sort of taxonomist nightmare. There's little grey things that run around on trees and really flat brown things that live on rock faces. And it turns out that there may be some association between speciation and ecological divergence. We see some green and red things together here. There's some fairly recent divergence events between the rock things and the tree things. There are other cases where we have speciation within the green clades that are essentially identical morphologically, except for a couple of really minor scale codes. So then, sort of message, we're actually trying to have both things going on in this particular variation. So to all that, we can sort of conceptualize 2 different processes, and there's, of course, a continuum in between. So we have the sort of the adaptive divergence, the really sexy stuff in evolution. People think about radiations in lizards. They put up a photo of anomalous lizards in the Caribbean, crown trunk giants and little grassy things, very divergent morphologies. And we know from theoretical studies as well as empirical studies that you can diversify adaptively in the presence of gene flow, that it can occur very fast and results in stiff ecomorphologies and ecologies. But the stuff we're seeing a lot of is this sort of cryptic speciation, which in theory is a very slow process. The theoretical literature is called mutation order speciation. Essentially things living in the same environment, establishing different mutations to solve the same selective problem. And that can give rise to genomic incompatibilities if they fix different mutations for the same solution. It rarely collapses with gene flow. So it really requires long-term stability of geographic ranges and isolation and very consistent selection to operate. So I think we're seeing both of these going. But the bottom line is looking at this fauna, just as one piece of the Australian fauna, and taking a very conservative approach to how we translate these genetic lineages, which sometimes are almost fractal geographically. And where do we just go right out of the tips, or do we come back? We've tried to be very conservative. But I think we'll end up at least doubling, if not tripling, the current named species diversity in the system. But much of it is going to be a pain in the ass to ecologists, because you're not going to be able to tell them apart in the head. You've got to sequence it. Okay, so that's sort of how we figure out the pieces. Then we try and put it together to develop spatial representations of diversity. And Anna showed some of this sort of stuff in the forest. This is a map of phyloendemism, where it's mapping essentially the spatial distribution of unique evolutionary diversity based on branch lengths. So things with small geographic ranges and or long unique branch lengths are upweighted. And it picks out essentially these sort of refugial, or some perhaps refugial But there's hotspots of diversity in the northwest Kimberley, which until we did this work was very poorly known. It turns out to be a real hotspot of unique evolutionary diversity, lots of small range things with long branches. As does the Island Plateau, which is already well known as a hotspot of endemism in plants. Then we picked up these other weird places, like these islands out here, and this area down here. I'll say more about. One of the questions we've been asking in rainforest systems, I've worked on with Anna and others, and here is, does stability beget diversity? So which is sort of the opposite of the way you think about adaptive radiation, which is ecological opportunity. But as I said, with this cryptic diversification, it takes a long time to build up these sort of unique things in space. And that's the thing, and particularly stability through the recent glacial cycles. As I said, range shifting and hybridization will essentially break some of these things down. So the idea is that there should be some relationship between stability and diversity. So we have a variety of ways of looking at stability, and I don't think any of them really get us where we want to go yet. So it's a whole range of sort of demographic, genetic demographic type approaches you can take. Spatial modeling approaches, again, now introduce some of those. So with skink, some of Sally's work, we can model potential geographic distributions using SDMs, Maxent or spatial model, stack them up over time, and ask which areas are more likely to have species persisting. So the darker areas are areas that appear to be more potentially persistent. In this case, over the last 80,000 years. So sort of top end Kimberley areas, in a sense. There are also coalescent model, population genetic models for detecting range expansion and estimating the source of that expansion. This one from Ben Keener and Von Stacken. Apply that to our data there. Well, these areas have strong evidence for range expansion, and the estimated point of origin is up here. These are, I think, good heuristic models, but I still wouldn't put money on the exact point where they predicted come from. But it gives you a flavour of where the field is moving. Spatially explicit ways of identifying these refugial areas. Actually, this one sort of accords reasonably well with the spatial models. This one does not. So there's still a disconnect between these two very different approaches. And again, what I'm trying to find here is, again, what are the areas in the landscape that have enabled persistence of species through entire glacial cycles? Now, they are the sorts of areas that we want to protect in the future climate change. Sort of contract mechanism. And then we can do these really complex demographic models that I'll ask Mike Nixon to explain, because the methods came from his lab, where we look at the whole assemblage of species and simultaneously apply models that allow for population splitting and or migration, population size change, and so forth over time, which is summarised in this diagram. The bottom line is all of these things have evidence for population expansions over some time scale, and in most cases those expansions don't all cluster at one point in time. They seem to be temporally disconnected. Again, community reassembly and so forth. So all that is to say that we have a variety of ways at the moment that sometimes give concordant answers, sometimes don't. We're trying to sort of peer back through history and say, well, what happened to these species across these landscapes? But let's imagine these spatial models are something close to reality. That's drawing a long bow here. We can ask a lot of these hotspots of endemism areas that were stable through time. And these two do kind of match up with, if you just model every species and ask where could it have persisted over time and stack those up, we get a fairly consistent report back saying there's an overland area that's probably pretty stable, and so was this West Kimberley area. And also, if you just look at the landscape, it's easy to just Google Earth images. They are flat, but very dissected Proterozoic sandstone, really old, stable platforms, with incredibly deep gorges in them. would offer all sorts of micro-refugia to enable persistence over time. So it's kind of makes sense. When you go into other areas, it's a real puzzle. So this set of islands out here have really deep old genetic lineages for several different species, completely unexpected. This is all very well connected to the mainland just 8,000 years ago, and to New Guinea, I should add. Yet they have all these facts on them that are confined to them, that were revealed by the genomics. And when Sally did the demographic modelling of these, the best model actually turned out to be one in which the population had contracted at about the time of the rise of sea levels. So that was kind of cool. Genetics gave us a sensible answer. So it may be that these things were much more widespread across the Arafura shelf and have contracted down with the rising sea levels, giving small range with a long branch. So it lights up in these final limits. So that's a view of those islands from the mainland. I mean, they're just right there. This area down here is fascinating. It's a unique, geologically unique area of Devonian limestones from which we've described, I think, 4 new species already. There's 2 to go in the reptiles. And they're only found as a little sliver of limestone down here. If anyone's in paleontology, it's home of the go-go fossils. So we think these limestones, which are deeply dissected, particularly good at holding water, and these ones are right on the edge of the desert. And they might just be a mesoid refugia on the edge of the desert. There's a lot more to there. So I guess the paleostability here also depends on how you look at it. There's a core scale climate models like we did before. That's what underpin this. It was something to do with local structuring of the environment that enables persistence despite really bad conditions away from it. So this is where I think this opportunity for thinking within and across scales. If we want to identify where these evolutionary refugia are, think about how they operate in the current period and then whether they'll be effective as refugia of these often single-sided endemic species going into the future. We need to do a better job predicting where these are in the landscape. So I showed you a bunch of stuff with paleo models and coalescence. That alone is not sufficient because you can have a predicted area of suitability, but they can't get there because of dispersal, or they could, but they're excluded by matching competition. There's something else of their type already there. And we have some clue that there's this sort of range blocking or matching competition stuff going on in the system based on some phylogeographic models that I'm happy to talk about later on. My point here is that it can be linked across to remote sensing data. So Brendan Mackey and others have developed what they call green spot maps. This is just from the NDVI, so green indices and some multispectral stuff. And identifying areas that have consistently high productivity across seasons and across years, as the rest of the landscape fluctuates enormously in productivity. So these are the sorts of places that ecologically should be able to sustain bigger populations and more stable populations, just based on simple ecological region. And some of these areas pop up as that's an agricultural area, so but maybe we can zoom in on this, and they've got these models 250 metre scale, and think about developing meta-population models, including these other factors like dispersal and competition, that might help us at least make better predictions to test with the genetics of where refugia work and where they'll be in the future. So it's sort of moving across scales from deep times through understanding ecology of local scales and tying that in with remote sensing, I think has some opportunity. How much longer do I have? Oh, stop. Okay, just a couple of slides. All right. So I'm very much driven by natural history because I spent a lot of time in the field catching these lizards and thinking about them. And one thing that became clear, once we've resolved what things were, species and lineages within species, is that there's a lot of shifting in body size going on. They all have the same body shape, but they vary up to 50% in body size. And that relates very much to who they're with. This is an impossible diagram. So that's phylogeny, it's coloured by body size. We have some things occurring in sympatry, some things that replace each other parapatrically. And when you make that comparison, you always get a body size shift between sympatric things. This has been observed in reptiles going back to Shona and Cody and Diamond and so on, and T. Case. But the displacement is not in body in shape, it's in body size. So you get the little things on little rocks. I'll make a few couple of examples. So this is a local assemblage, a magnificent place in the West Kimberley. You've got a big thing hanging out on the big rocks. We just spent a month in the field trying to say exactly where do we get the lizard, measure it, what is it, and came to the amazing conclusion that big things live on big rocks and little things live on little rocks. Well, we have to get out there and figure it out. It's a lot of fun doing it. So, big geckos on big rocks, little geckos, little tiny guys, some things equal 5 things equal worms on little rocks, and then something else of the same size as this, but it lives only on trees. So the only things that can occur are the same size are separated by habitat. Same sort of story here in the limestones. I won't go through it. Big things on big rocks, little things on little rocks. You have two little things, one's on the rock, one's on the tree. So there seems to be a lot of dynamics and trait evolution going on here. But it's not deep in the tree. It's right out of the tips. Different assemblages, the same thing can be in different assemblages, in different places. And its body size will shift, even within the same genetic type, depending on who it's with. So the trait evolution looks like, in some ways, in shape. And so macro habitat, they're very stable phylogenetically. But body size, which is the thing that's really driving co-occurrence patterns, is incredibly labile. And occurs locally. So different things at different scales. Okay, I'm actually going to skip this stuff. I'm going to talk about visualization or so for time. So the punchline. So I've tried to walk you through the sort of whole axis, colonization issue and radiations. I guess my conclusion is that trait and ecological divergence might be associated with speciation, but often it's not. And sometimes it's occurring at very local scale and short time scale. And that's what brings to mind John Thompson's shifting mosaic theory and so forth, coevolution. That could be Hotspots. That's enough. Thank you.